and I know that you do some business with Zillow. What do you think about those guys? What's the feeling on Zillow?
The Z word. The Z word.
Hi, I'm Jess Uphoff, and this is our episode of This Jess'd In. I'm here with my co-host, Elise Santani, and my dear friend, Chad Griffith, that runs the Griffith Home Team, one of the top teams here, real estate teams in the Denver market. Chad, 2025, you just said it. What is it going to be like? Let me know your thoughts. Are we in for another hard year?
I think we're in for another tough year. I think we still have, we have the interest rates, right? Which is, I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point here. But I still think it's going to be a grind. But I do think it's going to get easier. We're going to get a little bit of relief going forward. But just to say that, the market's just going to turn around
and be awesome again.
And just be awesome again. And I don't see how there's still a lot of challenges that we have in our market. And until we do see interest rates come down a little bit, I think it's, we have an affordability issue. Right.
We do.
Big time. So I think the market's going to be very similar to what it was this year. I think there's a lot of forecasts that show that, maybe another, 5 or 10% in transactions from where we'll end up landing this year. But I think 2025 is still going to be a grind. And that's really what my conclusion of 2024, is like, this year was a freaking grind.
Yeah.
Transactions were really, really tough. And then the ones that you got under contract, I think it was like 1/3, fell out
on inspection.
Right?
And
inspection, financing, honestly, buyer's remorse. Hell, I just had one this past weekend. It was the perfect house for them. It had the perfect garage, this and that. And the garage just wasn't big. This was a 4-car garage, but it wasn't quite big enough for them.
A 4-car garage?
A 4-car garage.
How many people live in this house?
2 people. No, he's got a lot of toys, and but he's got a lot of toys in the cars and this and that. But it was the house, it fit it solved all their pain points, but it just wasn't quite big enough. And so, I'm just like, what? But it ended up it was just buyer's remorse in that particular house. And, we'll find them something. But bottom line, to answer your question, 2025 is still going to be a grind, but my hope is that we're going to have a little bit of relief.
I think it is going to be better for us a little bit because I think we've adjusted. I think we got our tails kicked over the last couple of years, but I think the agents, lenders, we've adjusted now. So I think that we sort of understand the market a little bit better than we did before. We know what it takes. I think that buyers are going to stop waiting. I think so many buyers, I don't know if you guys have been experiencing this, but for me, there's just no sense of urgency.
Yeah.
But if prices keep going up, you can't keep waiting, right?
Yeah.
Well, we've been saying that for months. It feels like for years we've been saying that, and people are still on the fence. So what do we need to change to have that resonate with the buyers?
Every agent needs to tell their buyers not to use a mortgage calculator online. Like I tell people all the time, no one's paying that rate. Nobody.
Right.
We're putting deals together so that buyers have rates they can afford the payment. Sellers are getting used to that. So when you go Google what are rates today, and then you put in a $600,000 house with that rate, you're like, nope, I can't do that. But every agent needs to get the word out. That's not how it's working.
Yeah.
You know
Talk
what I
to
mean?
the lender, figure out what your options are.
You don't have to pay a 6.75% rate.
No, you don't.
You don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
They're just fixated on whatever that rate that they think that they need to be at. And that's why you got to talk to a professional, right?
Yeah.
To really understanding your purchasing power. And then, there's so many different strategies out there to reduce that payment. And you're in a market like right now, if you're a buyer right now and you got motivation, right? Sellers will, they'll give you 3, 4, 5%, whatever it's going to take to get you to that payment that you're going to need, right? But I agree with you.
There's no sellers kicking tires. Every seller on the market right now has to sell. They're motivated.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So you may as
Extremely
well take
motivated.
advantage of it. But why do buyers not want to do that? Like,
They're just scared. Everybody's watching the news. They're scared. Sellers want to sell their house in a week because they think it's the best one on the market. Buyers are afraid. They think that their mortgage is going to be double what it may be. No one's communicating the message. The mortgage calculators, everything. It's just there's so much misinformation out there.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And actually, I would say, I think one of the benefits of the NAR, which is a huge topic, right? But it is going to force for us agents to level up our game. And you really got to get in front of the consumer. And this is going to allow us to really, bring them into your office and really educate them on the process, understanding, what is your pain point, right? And really getting your expectations in line with the market. I mean, that's just what that's why this market's so tough right now, right? I mean, sellers freaking think it's COVID and buyers think it's 2008. And it's not accurate, right?
Yeah.
And the narrative is us in between. Like, that's
100%.
where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But agents are also freaking out as well.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you just go on social media is just it's so much negative. Right. And if you can't filter that out, right. I mean, we are the narrative and that's what our consumers see. Right. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot of different dynamics happening right now. It's interesting. But,
Do you have sellers that are pissed at you right now?
Not that they're going to say to my face, but, I will tell you, one thing on our team that I really try, that I've really led this year of really coaching the team is we have to get really good on the listing side up front in the process, right? You have to really set those expectations. And really educate, like, this is what the market, you gotta show them the data, right? And give them realistic expectations. Have a strategy that's in place that, hey, after X amount of showings or X amount of weekends on the market, here is the price improvements and the plan that we're going to put in place. And in fact, on my listing agreements, I have that in the listing agreement so that they see it and they've agreed to it. Now, granted, once you go on the market and you listen to the data, listen to the feedback, and maybe you don't stick to that exactly, but if you don't plant those expectations on day one before going on the market, it is a brutal, it's a tough experience if you don't get under contract quickly with those sellers. So, do
you have to go back to those sellers and basically say, "I told you so"?
Well, I mean, as kindly as you could put it, but I mean, yes, it is. I mean, that's if you can do your job really good up front with the sellers and set those good expectations, right? Hopefully, and hopefully the outcome is better than what you've laid out, right? Yeah. But yes, it's essentially, yeah, I told you so. I mean, but you're not shocked, right? Like, this job is so much about just trying to eliminate surprises, right? Like, we can't control everything.
You're right.
We can't control everything, right? But if you can eliminate as much surprises as you can, I mean, it helps improve the process overall and the experience, right? I mean, that's what we are here to do, is to try to deliver a really good experience even in a really tough market. Right? You can be on the market for 60 days and get the property sold and deliver a really, really good experience to that seller, right? Versus 2 years ago, if that was 60 days, holy hell, I mean, right? But it's all about the expectation that you deliver up front in the process. So,
when do you tell them they should do their first pricing reduction? Is it generally after the first weekend based on showing activity, or 2 weekends? Like, what's your typical?
Well, there's real estate's very hyperlocal, right? I mean, every neighborhood is different, right? So really, you got to understand the data within that specific area, and so that's a hard question to answer, but I mean, in general, once you've figured out, how many days, what's the average days on market, how many showings would we expect in the first weekend, and how many showings are we going to expect in order to get to an under contract, right? So is it 12 showings? Is it 14 showings? Is it 20 showings, right? And then you have to just do that. You got to figure out the math of like how long it's going to take. But typically, I mean, I'm usually encouraging within the first, and I don't think of days on market. I always think of just weekends, like weekend 1, weekend 2, weekend 3. And that's just how that's just how my brain works. That's how I've always, explained it to the sellers. But generally speaking, probably by the second to third weekend in today's market, you probably need to strongly consider dropping the price. Now, with that said, I mean, if you're the first weekend on the market, you have 15 showings, right? And the data shows you that it's 12, and to get it under contract, and you don't have an offer, you're grossly overpriced.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
And there's lots of other data points that you can attest to as well that you could use. Hit counters, looking at your online activity, specifically Zillow. How many views, how many saves. So there's lots of different tools that you can use, but these are the tools that you have to use so that you can set the right expectation and have the right plan in place to try to maximize this, the sell at the highest price and in the quickest amount of time.
And sellers are holding on for dear life to every dollar of their proceeds or their equity, right? Like you're having a hard time facing the reality of like, hey, we're going to list here. You thought here, and you need to be prepared for probably X% in concessions and inspection dollars, and it's hard to hear that.
It is hard.
Are you seeing a lot of people after you meet with them and they get a realistic view of what this market is, say, you know what, forget it. I don't want to list my house.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Or we're not going to list right now. Let's wait. Yeah.
When are they waiting until?
Usually probably till springtime.
Okay.
Right. I mean, really, I look at, if you're gonna sell your house, it's either you have patience or you want the highest price. And those are the two things. Right. So if you want the highest price, then you're going to need to have a lot of patience in this process.
Yeah.
Right. It could take you 45. I think the average days on market right now in Denver Metro is like 48 days. Right. Which is crazy. Right. Now, going back, decades, 48 days is nothing. Right. But in this new reality that we've been in and post COVID, 48 days seems like an eternity. So that, or if you want to sell it quickly, then we have to aggressively price this house. So even though the data may show that, hey, it's a 750 house, right? We may need to go 720 or 700 if you want a quick sale, right? So, but again, real estate is very hyper local, and that's where the really good agents, that's where they're going to earn their money, and good agents earn their money, and yeah.
Before you mentioned something about Zillow, and I know that you do some business with Zillow. What do you think about those guys? What's the feeling on Zillow?
The Z word. The Z word.
Because they have it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of like a love-hate with a lot of agents.
Oh, it's definitely much more hate than love in our world. Agents are, this is one thing that as an industry, we've got to do a better job. We are the narrative, and the headlines and the things that we continue to put out there in the world. And all we do is bitch amongst each other about Zillow, right?
Yeah.
And here's the reality. Zillow ain't going away.
Yeah.
Period. They're not going away. Okay.
They're growing.
So they're going to continue to grow. Right. And and you either are going to embrace them and learn how to work alongside with them, whether you're a partner or not.
Right.
But you use their tools and services, or, you're going to be left in the dust. Right. They are a technology firm. Okay. I think the problem with our industry is that real estate agents, like, so many of them are such dinosaurs. Like they just can't embrace technology. Right. Our society is
tech-based.
We are tech-based.
Yeah.
We want information now.
Yes.
On demand.
Yeah.
I'm freaking hungry. Like, I'm putting in my app and Jimmy John's delivered in 5 minutes, right? Or Grubhub, or Uber.
Totally.
Like, how could you say that the Uber experience
doesn't apply to real estate?
It sucks. Like, you would rather have the taxi cab experience over Uber.
Yeah.
Come on, right?
Right.
And here's what's interesting is I would bet most agents that are looking for a house, not in their own market, okay, but in another market, what side are they on?
Right. There's basically only one, in my opinion.
One.
Zillow.
They're on Zillow.
Yes.
Right? How many agents are in their own market looking on Zillow?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so the platform is so much user friendly, right? So the bottom line is, to answer your question, I mean, I think Zillow it is allowing the consumers to do, they're getting smarter, right? I mean, because they're utilizing Zillow, and by the way, by the time they've contacted us, right? They've been on this journey for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, right? The consumers, the buyers and sellers,
They're ready to buy.
They are ready, right? They know what they need. And here's what's interesting. I would bet oftentimes before you walk into a house, right? You're going to go show a house to a buyer. That buyer knows more about that house than the agent does. Okay.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because I would argue that the caliber of agent on Zillow is low comparatively to their competitor. The people that have built really good SOI, like sphere of influence business, is a much higher caliber agent than someone who is getting fed by Zillow. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay.
Yep.
So should the consumer, the Zillow agent is just there, hey, I'm going to take this lead and open the door. Like, I'm hearing stories of 25-year-old kids, like second deals, showing a $1.5 million property and writing an offer. How can that 25-year-old kid be the professional that consumer needs?
No, I mean, that's a great question, right? And that's one thing, again, that the NAR thing is going to help address the change, right? Because that 22-year-old kid going to go show a $1.5 million house is going to have a conversation about the process and how I'm going to get compensated before I show you this house.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be a challenge.
Right.
Right. So you're
That 25-year-old kid is shitting his pants thinking about having that conversation.
The 25-year-old just shit his pants because he's going to put 2.5 or 3% or whatever.
Right.
And you do the math.
Right.
Right.
And he's not worth that.
He's not.
Right.
Right.
And then
He's
the
not.
buyer's going to look at him and say, excuse me, why am I paying you this much money?
Correct.
And now I don't have to.
But the consumer doesn't know that kid doesn't have the experience. That's the problem with trying to make Zillow like Amazon, like push button buy house. It's much different than buying a Jimmy John sandwich or buying a thing of paper towels on the internet. Like, you're buying one of your biggest investments with inspection and title and lender and all these things that can go wrong, that you need professional experience.
Yeah. No, I don't. I agree. But this has been happening though for a while.
Right.
Right. And you got to look at the makeup of like the buyers. I mean, you have, I think, like 38% or 40% of the market right now is millennials, and a lot of them are first-time home buyers. Well, they probably don't have an agent, right? And by the way, what platform have they been using and they've been on for 6-12 months? Is Zillow. So Zillow is a trusted source to the consumer.
Agreed.
Right.
Totally.
And so, yeah, but
I mean, they've done a great job. Zillow, we have to give them credit, right? They've
Yes.
done an amazing job. But I worry about the professionalism for the client. You know?
I do. Yeah, I agree. But I also think I think there's a lot of really good young agents that are far better than our old agents that are set in their own ways, and the agents are going to say, well, you don't know how many deals I do, and they just totally belittle you. And it's just like, I mean, if you're an agent, right, and hopefully you have the right mentorship and the right brokerage that's going to help lead you through those first few transactions. And if you're fortunate enough that it's the first one is a 1.5 million, right? The process doesn't change though, right? But there's a lot more at stake. Okay. And so hopefully they have, the guidance that they're going to need to get through that transaction. But if you are a new agent, right? I mean, you're going to care more about this client than any other agent who maybe have, they're working with 10 other agents, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, but I agree. I mean, that's part of the problem. I mean, naturally the Zillow stuff is going to, the Zillow teams, they are going to be younger agents, 10 that are going to be more successful with that platform. That's who they're going to cater to until they build up their database, and then they don't need to use the Zillow platform to be successful in the business.
Commissions have remained pretty stable. I mean, I think what I'm hearing is 2.8 to 2.5. So we saw a 0.3 drop in buyer's agent compensation, right?
Yep.
I know a lot of listing agents are actually making more money. That's probably true for you as well, I would imagine. But my question for you, running a big team, and Zillow, as you said, 1/3 of your team
Roughly.
revenue. Like, how do you make all the financials work? Like all of the things you have to pay for to run a team, from staff to, paying 40% of each closed transaction to Zillow, and you need transaction coordinators and all the things, right?
Yeah.
Marketing, and how do you make the finances work? And then it's enough money for you and Dustin to feel like this is a good use of my time to run this big team?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because they are squeezing the profits out of us. And for us, luckily we are, I think we have a pretty healthy balance. I mean, our team is roughly about 70% still Sphere, repeat business, right? The other 30% is Zillow. And the way we kind of look at it is, I am willing right now to take a little bit less, right, in the profit margins, because knowing that Zillow client, right, once they come on under our agents and under our team, okay, they're going to be touched on 36 times a year. They're going to get access. They're going to come to or be invited to 7 client events every single year. They're going to have access to a moving truck. They're going to get all these benefits from us moving forward, right? They are never going to go back onto the Zillow and click, schedule a showing with a random person. Okay. Yeah. So I'm investing that it is just, it's money that I've invested in now, right? That we will get back 5x, 10x down the road, right? And as you know, I mean, you've been along with our journey since day one. Mm-hmm. A lot of our team's databases were built on internet lead platforms.
Agreed. So it's a good way to
it's a great way.
Business.
The Zillow leads, you can't argue the quality of those leads. I mean, those buyers are very high intent. I mean, again,
what's the conversion ratio for your team for Zillow?
I mean, we're right around probably about 12%,
which is really
which is phenomenal.
Yeah,
a little bit better than the national average for Zillow. And then if you compare that to a forced registration lead, so like a Boomtown lead, or where you get forced squeeze page, and then you can't look at photos anymore, so then you got to put in your fake email or whatever. Those national averages around 0.5%.
Wow.
Right. But you got to think of it again from the Zillow consumer experience, right? I'm on this platform that's going to give me all the data that I want, and I can swipe, I can look, I can research, and they will never ask you for your information.
Yeah.
So the Zillow lead is saying, when they come through, they have raised their hand and said, hey, I'm actually interested in looking at this property. But remember, this journey for them started 6 months ago versus the forced registration leads. That's right there. So you got them at the very forefront. And that's why those leads take 6-12 months down the road.
And those nurture leads are really hard for agents.
So hard. It's
keep
so
up.
hard.
You just can't touch them enough.
No, it's a brutal, it's tough. But we have built our database on that, right? So that's just what we've been good at. And so a lot of our older agents on our team, their databases were those really tough
That's
internet
a really good
leads.
point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
So then they shift out, and then eventually they take less internet leads, or some of them, they're completely done.
Yeah.
They don't take internet leads, and they just work their database. And that's what we want, especially as a team leader. They start on our leads, and then each year they start to scale back and they do more of their own production. So to answer your question, come full circle, is just, it is tough right now, even though we're doing record numbers on a team. But from a profitability standpoint, it's not a record, because we are getting squeezed because of that 40%. But I know the value of those leads down the road,
That's fair.
and I trust that those clients are going to come back to us, and they're not going to go back to the Zillow.
That's fair.
Because that's what we've been doing since day one.
And if you experience commission compression, is there a point that it doesn't make sense anymore?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, there will be, for sure. I don't know exactly what that number is, but I will tell you from the brokerages that I have talked to, owners of brokerages. I mean, again, we don't own a brokerage; we just own a team. And owners of our brokerage. I mean, if you below 2%, most people are going out of business.
Yeah,
you can't, and even. I mean, even if you went from like 2.8 to 2.5, right now I think we're around we're going to be right around like 2.45, 2.5, call it. I think that's sustainable, and that's probably where we're going to land. But I think you get below 2, I think you'll put people out of business.
I agree.
So,
but I think that's in the future. I think commissions are going to continue to get compressed. Don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know. There's different market cycles.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's a flight to quality too.
Yeah.
And I think the good agents are going to do really well. And I think, if you're not on a good team or a good brokerage and you don't understand your core value and your level of competence is down here when the good players are up here, you're going to struggle. This is a really tough time to get in this business, right? But, I do think the future is bright in our industry. Mm-hmm. It has been a grind, as we said. But there's a flight to quality for sure. And the NAR stuff is going to force everyone to get better. You can't argue that, even though there's all these other things that I've disagreed with it on that settlement. Mm-hmm. It will force us all to level up our game.
Yeah.
That is not a bad thing.
What do you think about all the dual agency stuff? Like real estate agents kind of getting kickbacks in lending by just having dual agency. Like, what are your thoughts on that with RESPA and, people marketing themselves as a lender and a realtor? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a slippery slope. You are flirting with you have one complaint mm-hmm. on the mortgage side or the other side to that consumer. I think you're going to have a tough road ahead on really trying to protect yourself on that when something does go wrong. And let's face it, something's going to go wrong at some point.
Yeah.
I mean,
inevitable.
In the world that we live in,
yes.
right? And just how highly sensitive just everything is, and just how hard the transactions are, and the restrictions, and nothing's getting easier.
No, it's getting harder.
It's getting harder.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I think it's a very slippery slope, mm-hmm. and I would not do that. Obviously, we own a company, but we are not the LO. We are not servicing. It's a little bit different. Our agents don't get anything from GA. Yeah. There's none of that, right? But the dual is a very slippery slope, and I would not go down that rabbit hole.
I don't really know anyone personally who does that, but I just think, how do you even do a good job as a real estate agent and a lender?
Well, they don't really do the loan. They have some other loan officer do the loan, and they just get a kickback. Which is exactly what RESPA wants us not to do
100%.
In the industry. So it's just like a loophole. And the CFPB doesn't really advise. They just penalize. So it's basically just waiting on somebody to get a penalty or get fined to change it up, because there's been no guidance in the industry about dual agency. But agents, teams specifically, are starving for money. They are running out of money. That is the number one threat to big teams right now is cash. And Zillow is not helping these big teams that do Zillow. And so they're like, oh, dual agency, let's try this. And I personally think it's really dangerous.
I think it's very dangerous. Yeah. I think you either own the mortgage company, mm-hmm. But doing the kickback is a slippery slope.
I also think you can't do like high transaction and really good quality, like strategic, good advice quality. And so you have to pick a lane.
You do.
You know what I mean?
You do.
And so you're going to try to be a realtor and a lender and just do a shit ton of transactions. No. And it's like, who suffers? The consumer. You're not giving good advice and trying to spin all those plates, right?
Yep.
And there's so many different nuances to our business that you have to advise and guide and lead and overcome objections and steer them and help them. And it's just, you can't do both, I think, personally.
Can't. No, I agree. Yeah. And eventually I think like I said, it takes one consumer bad experience and on the lending side too, especially, I mean, and then as soon as they find out you're getting kickback, like you're going to be toast. You're cooked.
As the kids say.
You're cooked. You're cooked. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about running Griffith Home Team with your brother, Dustin.
Yeah.
I want to know all of the tea. I need you to spill it all.
I will say, it has been like probably one of the greatest life experiences I've ever had.
That's awesome.
Truly.
That's
I mean,
cool.
My brother, we're very blessed and I'm lucky. My brother and I are very different.
Yes.
And that's what makes us run. Like I am the visionary. I am the guy who like comes up with all these ideas and this and that. And I'm like, here we go. Let's just do it. And my brother's like, well, like, how in the fuck are we going to do that? like you got to have a plan, right? I'm like, no, like, it's good. Like, this is exactly what we're going to do.
Open up my chute on the way down.
It is. Like, it really is. Like, we'll figure it out. Like, just jump out of the friggin' plane and like, we got this. We have, you got 25 seconds to figure it out. And so we really, I mean, truly, my weaknesses are his strengths and vice versa.
It's awesome. That's exactly what you want.
If you didn't have that dynamic.
No, it wouldn't. It would not.
No.
And you know that. I mean, you know us better than anyone.
Yeah.
Do you get pissed at him when he tells you no on stuff?
I mean, we banter.
Yeah.
I mean,
You guys bicker a lot.
Oh yeah, we bicker.
Do you ever get drunk and punch each other?
My brother would would totally kick my ass.
Yeah. So you know.
I mean, he's 6'4", and but we have been a very good blend. Like, I mean, we are the perfect like just team setup.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's one of the greatest things I've
awesome.
been able to have in my life, and I would not be in this business without my brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I got in this business because I was in the corporate world and doing really well. I mean, I was in my 20s doing really well, climbing up the ladder. But my friggin' brother is just like, hey, do you want to go boating today?
Yeah.
He's like texting me at like 10 a.m. And I'm like, dude, like there is a process to leave this cubicle. I mean, literally.
I know, right?
And I was like, I can't just like.
And he was crushing it in real estate.
And then he's crushing in the real estate.
Yeah. And you're sitting in a cubicle like, can I have PTO, please?
Like seriously, like I have to like submit a request, go ask the manager, and she's got to get approval. They sign off, and then I get dinged.
Your brother's like, I'm done boating.
He is.
That was 2 days ago.
It was.
Bye.
But that's literally like I got to the point in the financial services world where I was probably going to have to leave Colorado. Like that's just where the job was going. And for my wife and I, that was not an option. We didn't want to leave where we're from. It was also pre-kids too. And I just felt like it was, honestly, my brother and I were on a cruise and we were talking and I was just like, dude, I got to find something different. He's like, dude, you should just get into real estate. I'm thinking about leaving my team and just, I'm going to form my own thing and we should just do it together. And literally, like, that's where it all, like, the light bulb clicked. And
how long did you quit your job after you had that conversation?
I mean, so we did, the cruise was in January and then I got licensed in May. And
wow.
So, I mean, it was in the first half of that year.
Wow.
You took to it really fast, like, right?
I did. I came right out of the gates. But I got lucky though. Or I shouldn't say I got lucky, but like my real estate journey really began 7 years prior in the financial services industry.
Yeah.
Okay. Real estate, it's a relationship game.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Now I was so scared when I left. I mean, people thought I was crazy. I mean, for one, my wife and I bought a house with Jess, and the very next day we quit our job.
Jess is like, do not quit your job until we close on this house.
I literally, like, because we had this house and we want a little bit bigger house and whatever. And so we bought, I told my wife, I was like, hey, like we
got to do it.
I was like, if we're going to do this, like I have to go, like we have to do it before I quit my job, because I'm not going to be able to get a loan for 2 years. And, and she was a teacher, and I was just like, we're just not, this ain't going to work.
Yeah.
Right. And she's just like, okay. And so she didn't know any different. Like, I got it. Like, you just trust me. But no, I bought a house, and then literally the very next day I quit my job. I walked in, and I was at 8 o'clock, I gave my notice, and by 9 o'clock I had my box and I was escorted out of the building.
Wow.
My badge was done. I actually went back in the car, and I cried a little bit. I was like, holy
what
shit.
did I just do?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. The panic sets in.
But whatever, go big, go home, right? But I had a plan in place. Like I was already licensed, and I knew I had a lot of really good connections and relationships that I built in that industry. And so I did. I mean, that first year in real estate, I did like 32 transactions, right?
Wow.
But it was because I happened to, like, that journey really started 6-7 years prior, and people do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
That's so true.
And one of my biggest fears of leaving that business was, I was like, how are these people going to like, they know me in this capacity, in the stock world, in the investment world, and this and that. Like, all of a sudden I'm going to ask them to be their agent. And I was so scared. I was like, how is that going to transition? They were like, well, yeah, you were amazing at this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're going to be I trust you.
Yeah.
I trust you.
That's the whole thing. You are a personable guy. People like you. You can have a conversation, and that just translates, right?
Yep.
Like, people like you. So they're like, sure, help me with my house. I don't care.
Yeah.
You have a great team dynamic.
Yeah.
You guys are always having fun. You're always having a fun time with each
tenure.
other.
Like, how do you, what are the things that you attribute your tenure to?
Culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's maintaining that culture. Dustin and I have always said that we are always going to put our agents' best interests first. So when we implement new things and we do whatever it is, it's in the best interest of the agent while maintaining profit.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, you got to still be able to have profit. Yeah, I tell the team all the time, it's like, hey, if we're not profitable, like,
it doesn't work.
Show's over.
You guys want us to be profitable.
Yeah.
Right. The show's over. Right.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why I still produce and my brother still produces, because if the team went upside down today, like, I'm good. Like, I still, right. But, where was I going with that question?
About your team.
Oh, the tenure. Yeah. So culture. Right. And so, we've done everything to help support this team. And we have grown. Yes, we're a team of 25 now, right? But we really have only grown 1 or 2 agents per year from day one. We've never, this past year was that was the first time we've ever really grown as much as we did. And we added 4 agents, and one shot. But we've never done an ad once, not since day one. We've never had an ad. We've always grown organically.
That's cool.
Okay. I mean, you helped us in that journey. Our other partners have helped us in that journey. Our own agents have the amount of people have come within are just our agents. And, just telling the team of, like, here's our vision, right? And here's what we need to do, and being open and transparent. But we do a lot of fun stuff. Like GAC is like my second family.
That's so
like,
cool.
I mean, we have traveled all together a ton, and through all the different events, and just seeing, some of the hardships that these agents have had when they've come into the business, and even during the business, and just seeing where they are now is like the greatest, like, fulfillment I could ever imagine. Yeah. And that's why Dustin and I still do it.
Does that ever come back, though, to bite you a little bit if you're too close with your agents and then you still have to be their boss? Has there ever been any kind of...
Nope.
Okay.
Have we had some hard conversations? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've hired my best friend. I mean, I was the best man in his wedding. If I didn't have my brother, he would have been the best man I met.
Yeah.
He's on my team. His wife is staff on our team.
Wow.
Our marketing person, Jamie, I've known her since day one.
Yeah.
Nick has brought on 2 of his best friends, Devin and Phil. But but I'm very open up front. Like
Yeah.
we're going to have business as business.
Yeah.
Right. Personal is going to stay personal. Have we had some, I'm not going to lie. There's not been tough times where we just like, right. Maybe there's a little bit of friction,
Right.
but like, like I'm still coming from a place of love. Right. Like in good intentions. Right. But like, but no, I'll keep on hiring my friends. I love it. Right. And some people would say that's crazy. But I'm going to stay true to who I am. I'm not going to get greedy. I'm going to come from a place of love. I'm going to help support you. And I believe in our mission and what we've accomplished. And I'm going to help you along that journey. And if that journey we find out is not good for you, like we're good.
So you have all of your team, you are producing, you're doing all the things, and you're flipping houses.
Yep.
Which I see it on TV all the time. That's my experience with it. You break down the wall and there's something crazy behind the wall, or it's like a hoarder house, or like, I want to know more about that. How's that going? Where are you buying your houses? How are you determining what's a good one, what's not a good one?
The flipping role it was interesting. I've been wanting to do it for a few years.
And COVID was just not the time.
COVID was just not the time. Yeah. I want another stream of income, right?
Yeah.
And I saw an opportunity because I've got so many relationships in this business now. That I'm like, Dustin, like, I think we can get a lot of business from the people that we know. We just got to let them know, like, hey, if you have a house that might fit a flipping, category, like call us, right? So last year we finally we had a very good contract that I trust, and he's done a lot of stuff for us, and I asked him, I was like, hey, like, do you have any interest in this? He's like, depends, right? He's like, like, I'm pretty busy and this and that. Well, fast forward, I mean, contractors are sick and tired. I mean, for one, their world has been totally wrecked from COVID as well, right? I mean, that
supply chain issues.
I mean, there's so much turnover and contractors are really going through it. But then dealing with homeowners and the expectations of homeowners and having to deal with, like, you're going to be here at 8:00 and then, the wife's saying, well, you're not here. It's 8:30, whatever. Right. And you're dealing with all this stuff. Right. And so I found with this.
Why is it the wife saying it? Why is it not the husband?
I know, or the husband. You're right.
It's usually the wife that's the pain in the ass.
Usually the wife.
Usually the wife that's the pain. And I realized is like, he loves this business because he can it's an empty house.
Yeah.
And let his vision come to life.
Oh, that's
and his contractors can work around the clock. And he could do some of these other side jobs, but that door is always open to go do work.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to deal with the homeowners and this, that. And we have a great relationship. We come up with the vision, right? So I find and procure the houses through many of my real estate partners, now that people know that I just flip homes, right?
Yeah.
And and so I get probably 5-6 opportunities a month just from other real estate agents.
Wow.
Then you have the wholesale channel. There's lots of different wholesalers out there that do that. And then through our own team. And so, we find, procure we buy the home, and then, the contractor, we have a game plan in place. Like, hey, what's our vision here? We obviously have to talk about budget prior to making sure that the margins are going to work.
What is a good margin?
So when it's all said and done, I mean, the goal was 10% to start with. And the first few we did, 10% was obtainable. Well, this year's been tough. Year's been tough, yeah.
On the sales side?
On the sales side, yeah. Well, for one, you make your money on the buy side, right?
Yeah.
So we got burned on a few because we just, we didn't buy them aggressively enough, right? But because they ended up sitting on the market a little too long, and the cost to borrow on this stuff is, the hard money stuff is really expensive. I mean, you're paying anywhere from 12 to 14% depending on the loan. So anyways, we've really had to kind of peel back those expectations close to the 7-8%. And
you pay points on that?
Some of them are with points. Some of them are 1 to 2 points.
Okay.
We now have where there's no points, and like we've raised our own capital.
Oh, good.
And so I'm not using a lender anymore. So
That's
that
good. That helps.
It totally helps. And I have all the other fees that come on, and so But 7 to 8% is kind of what we're looking for now. I do think that number will get back to like 10%. And if you just podcast and listen, flippers around the country, I mean, really 10% is what you want. But I'm willing, we're doing a lot of volume right now on it. And so I'm willing to do a little bit less to keep those contractors busy too. Right. Because
especially because you're making money on the real estate too, right? Like
Correct.
you're making commission as well. Or at least you're not paying it.
Yeah, we don't take any commission. That's kind of our agreement. And then my contractor's doing it at his cost. And then we split the profits 50-50.
You and your brother and him.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Dustin and I are we're partners.
Yeah.
And then the contractor is the other one. And so he does it at his cost. And then we split after everything, all fees, right? I mean, and my fees to sell it, right? I mean, I still got to pay the buyer's agent. I still got staging costs and all the other listing costs that come up. But after all fees, whatever that net number is, if it's 75 grand or 70 grand or whatever, then he gets 35, I get 35.
Cool.
But so it's been fun. It's been, it's fun just seeing the transformation of these houses.
Yeah.
Like it is like, we all watch HGTV,
Yes.
right? And even though I'm like, oh my God, like this is so not reality. Like that is just a reality show. And it's just not, you just don't go do this big old open house and then magically it just sells like today. Like, no, that's not how the world works. But everyone is fascinated with real estate. Yeah. And so I love sharing these transformations of these homes. And it's just good because like some of these homes, like they are nasty. And the neighbor next door, like imagine living next to that.
Yeah.
So we come in, we totally rehab this, complete 180 transformation, and then we set a new high in the neighborhood. Like you're doing a good deed then for the neighborhood, the neighbors. I mean, the amount of neighbors that have come up and talked to us throughout the process, like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like they're coming from a place of gratitude. I'm thinking like, I'm just trying to keep the peace and make sure that we're not looked like we're investors coming in. But no, I mean, a lot of these homes are just, they're.
Is it the nastier, the better kind of?
I mean, yeah.
That's what I always heard. Buy the worst house on the block.
I mean, there is a point where I'm like,
And do you do an inspection always?
Well, no, you buy them up front.
So you can't do an inspection? So you have no idea?
Well, no, we walk through the house. So like my contractor and I will walk through.
Okay.
And sometimes we'll be there for 2-3 hours. And that is our inspection though. Cause like it's hard. Like a lot of these deals are.
What about sewer lines?
We price it all in.
Oh.
Have you watched the Casa Bonita documentary on Paramount Plus?
No, but I want to.
It's where my mind goes when we're talking about this, of like, you think that you're just looking at something and you're like, okay, cool. Like, look at those guys, $6 million. That's what they were going to do total. At the end of the day, they spend $32 million. It is problem after problem after problem. I mean, watching that thing made me so stressed and anxious. I'm like, oh my God. Like, so to not have a full inspection, you really don't know what's behind the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you just
take the risk.
You got to just, you buy, it's all part of the margins. I mean, we have a buffer on everything.
Wow.
And you gotta remember too, we're not flipping just one house in a year, right? I mean, we're trying to flip like 24 houses. So like,
oh wow,
there's going to be 2 or 3 houses where you lose money on.
This is a full-time job for this contractor now.
He's full-time.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so
we
2
have
a month?
We're kind of on track to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Has he had to hire a lot of people? Like, is this really?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He has 6 full-time crew that are all
like his subs.
No. No, like that are his full-time. Yeah.
Oh wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, because the way, I mean, as soon as he has to start subbing, like costs go up. Oh. So now there's some things that we do sub out. I mean, he doesn't do everything, but for most part, we want him to be able to do most of the work because that's how we can control the costs. Yeah. So it's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. But it's been fun. It's been a fun journey for my brother and I. We're just getting started with it. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's not like this is going to take over everything. This is just another.
It's smart.
Revenue
It's
stream.
really, really
another
smart.
revenue stream. I mean, I've always been about revenue streams. I don't want to be just one income. Like, you got to have multiple because the markets are going to shift. You have disruption. I mean, you just never know what could happen in the world. And I want to have multiple income streams that I can rely on.
Chad, what do you think about rates in the next year from now?
We always have our bet.
We do.
Yeah, we do. So
I normally win.
You do.
Well, hopefully.
But we do Price is Right rules.
Yeah.
So like you can't be
Over.
You can't be over
at all, right? Rates is a big one. There's a lot of variables that are going into it, right? I mean, the mortgage rates are, as we all know, I mean, they're really going to be tied to inflation, and that's a whole nother, with the Trump administration coming in and the tariffs and what kind of pressures is that going to put on? Naturally, with the tariffs is, and inflation will go up from that. The other whole piece to it, and we don't, I don't want to get into like politics. It's whatever, but they have a whole plan of cutting out like $2 trillion, right? And all this wasteful spending, right? And I truly believe that they're going to go in there and really clean it up, right? Whether you like that or not, but there is, I think one thing that we can all agree on, there's massive waste in Washington. So there's gonna be tons of deregulation. If you look at like new home builders, the National Association of New Home Builders said that 28% of the cost to build a home is the regulation and all of the red tape that is in play. Okay, 28% at the tune of about $92,000.
Wow.
Okay, so in
$92,000
per home. Yep.
It's insane.
It's insane. So I think what's going to happen is I think there's going to be a lot of this crap is going to get cleaned out and flushed out, right? And that's a really good thing. It'll really allow our markets to allow free markets to do their thing, right? And when you have competition, it increases your quality, bring prices down. It's a really healthy thing. But when you have so much red tape and so much bureaucracies and all this stuff and added layers, it makes it harder and harder, and quality then goes down and pricing goes up, right? So where I'm going with that is I do think that yes, tariffs might bring, right? It may make costs of goods go up. However, I think if you could deregulate all this other stuff, that might bring things down on that end. So maybe it's a wash. I have no idea, right?
But are builders really going to say, okay, well, now that all got cut out, we don't have to spend $92,000 per house, so we're going to reduce the price?
Well, markets will dictate that. Okay. I truly believe markets will dictate that.
Okay.
And it's not a bad thing for builders to make more money because they've been
they're squeezed. They're squeezed
so hard, right? With these forward commitments and
100%.
dropping their prices and
dropping our commission.
We need them to stay in business, not have inventory.
100%. We have a long-term housing shortage. Like there's no doubt about that. So with all that said, back to the interest rate question, I think that inflation is probably still going to stay high. Obviously the Federal Reserve wants to get it back down to, the CPI like 2%. We're at like 3.2 or 3.3, right? So we still have a ways to go on that one. So because of all that, I think rates are probably still going to stay in the 6 to 7 range through probably 2025. I don't see how rates can just, and to be honest, we don't want rates to just drop. You guys might want rates just for the refis, right? If you get 5.5, you get a massive boom. But like, can you imagine our real estate market if rates went to 5.5%? Like it would be COVID like 2.0. Like it would be insanity.
You're so right.
So I think we will end up somewhere. I think we're going to be in the 6 to 7 range, and I know that's a big range. But I think we're gonna stay in the 6s this year, and I think we'll probably end up somewhere in the low 6s, 6.25%, 6%. There may be a couple week run that you may have in the 5s, and you'll be able to capture just like we did this year, right? In
September,
and you'll have some great refi opportunities and be ready. But I just don't see. So that's my interest rate prediction on that.
Yeah, I actually agree with you.
Do you?
Yeah, I think low 6s.
Low 6s.
Which I think is actually perfect.
I think
low 6s and the inventory we have is going to make for a great year, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think 2025 is going to be. It's not going to be COVID, but it's
no. But we don't want COVID. We don't want COVID.
But could it be similar to 2019? Like I think that would be awesome if we could have like a comparable market to 2019.
Yeah, I've always said, I have always felt that there is what's going to get the homeowners to list, right? And to move on to the next, their next, because they all have pain. They have pain of some sort. I mean, and there's a lot of data that has shown that, well over 60% of home buyers that purchased during COVID regret it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they're stuck in pain. Well, they're stuck because they got a 2.5%, 3.5% rate. Well, I think about a 2 to 2.5% spread is where they will move the needle. So if you're at 4%, 6.5, you're going to go, right?
Yeah.
But if you're at 3%, you're going to need 5.5. But guess what? If we're at like 6.5 or 6, you can do the permanent rate buy downs, have the sellers sell it, and you're at 5%, 5.25, 5.5, right? So coming back full circle of, the education up front, right? Sure, you're going to use the online calculators, right? But you got to speak to a professional. Yeah. Okay. Your agent is good. First thing you're going to tell them is talk to the lender, right? You got to understand the purchasing power, and then I will help you understand how we will get to that. And if your needs are here at the 750 range, well, then here's the homes that we're going to need to look at, because we're going to need a $20,000 concession so that we can get you the rate that you need.
Yeah.
But don't just say I'm out of the market, I'm done.
Yeah.
What's your unpopular opinion about 2025?
I think it's going to be a freaking grind. I think it's
That's the unpopular opinion?
I feel like that's popular.
Yeah.
That's a popular opinion. Yeah.
Actually, I think people are pretty optimistic. I think a lot of agents are hopeful and optimistic that it's going to be fantastic. And so maybe that is the unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I guess, I think it's gonna, I think it's gonna be a grind. It's gonna be a grind for a few more years. But I think the worst, it's going to ease up going forward, right? And that will be, that's just, I think it'll ease as we continue to move forward. And there's going to be, I think a lot what's going to happen. At the end of the day, half the country hates Trump. Trump is a real estate developer. Okay. He made his money in real estate, right? I like to trust that he's going to have good policies that are going to help our business.
Yeah. You would hope.
Okay. I hope. So I guess time will only tell on that one. So I guess I didn't really answer your question then on popular opinion.
No, I think
other than I do think it's going to be a grind, but it is going to continue to be a flight to quality, and the good agents are going to have really, really good years ahead. The good teams that are well structured, they're going to do really, really well. And Zillow is not going away.
I agree. Yeah.
Zillow is not going away, whether you like it or not.
So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you? How do they follow you?
Well, I really suck on social media. So I am not...
Should they just text you?
Yeah, just go ahead and just text me, okay? No, I'm on Instagram. I have Facebook. But
MySpace?
Huh?
Do you have MySpace?
Probably somewhere. I probably have an old account.
No, he was 4.
Yeah.
No, easy. No. That was my college years, I believe.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
But no, I'm on social media, and I have Instagram, Facebook, but
the Griffith Home Team.
The Griffith Home Team. Yeah.
With RE/MAX.
With RE/MAX Professionals. Yeah.
And since you are open to having a handful of agents maybe join the team, what would be the best way if they were interested in learning more about the Griffith Home Team?
Just reaching out to me directly.
Okay, to you directly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm guessing you'll share my information.
We will.
We'll make some magic happen.
We'll make some magic happen. Yeah.
Chad, I just want to thank you for being here. You're such a wealth of knowledge. It's so fun to chat with you. And congrats on just your team and the tenure and the success you and your brother have had. It's so cool.
Thank you. Well, you were you were a big part of the whole journey. So I really hope you, you were there for a lot of it. So, and still are.
Thank you.
So, but thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Super fun.
Yeah.
Good.